Seven Footers crew, what is going on? Jarod and Jenna here. I am remote from a Connecticut hotel, so don't call me out for any issues here, okay? Okay. How we doing, Jarod? You have it together per
I'm
usual, thank God.
I'm doing all right. This is classic. I'm like, oh, you've been busy, recording the pods, been a challenge. I'm like, Jenna, where are you? Oh yeah, I'm in Connecticut. Got a 3 game homestand, so gonna be here for a little while.
That's they call me a good old-fashioned grinder out here. Just, out here trying to do the most always.
Always
I mean,
trying
we
to do
know that's true.
that's how you do. We know. But Jenna, the NBA finals are here. Let's get into it.
Yes, let's get into it, guys. Like we said, it's been a challenge with our schedules to record, but it's the NBA Finals. We had to squeeze this one in because we got game 3 on the night that we're recording this on Wednesday, June 7th, and the series is tied 1-1. I mean, the Heat never let up. All I've been hearing all week is the reruns on ESPN about the Heat culture. We all know that's true. So, series shifts back to Miami tonight at the arena that I can't pronounce the name of since they had the damn scandal. So, you know, let's try chit chat about this. Now the Heat have the home court advantage. They stole that back, of course.
Mhm.
Now let's talk about which team is this more of a must win for?
you know, Jenna, it's interesting. The Nuggets had home court advantage. You mentioned it got stolen by the Miami Heat when they won Game 2. Had the Nuggets gone up 2-0, um, a small number of outcomes for this finals is what I would have predicted, being that a 2 game lead is a lot to overcome. Not that the Heat couldn't because they're very good, just that when a team's up 2-0, it just creates, more of an advantage for that team, particularly if they're the team with home court advantage winning their first 2 games at home. Now that it is 1-1 and the Heat we're back in Miami for game 3, any number of scenarios is possible in this series, and I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to say for the Nuggets, it's more important not necessarily that they win, but that they play solid basketball for 48 minutes. Even though they won game 1, Michael Malone came out and said he was not pleased with the team's fourth quarter effort. It just didn't matter because they had a 21-point lead and the Heat couldn't catch up. Well, they had an 8-point lead going into the fourth quarter in game 2, and we know what happened there. The Heat went gangbusters, went up big. The Nuggets even made their way back, and it was a one-possession game late, but they weren't able to knock down the final shot. The Nuggets need to, Jenna, be much more locked in with their game plan defensively, what they're supposed to be doing, and just, not making mistakes. This is the NBA Finals. So I would say it is important that the Nuggets play well for 48 minutes and are locked in. And I would say for the Heat, it's probably if they win and they go up 2-1, that's better for them than having to chase from behind being down 2-1.
Absolutely. And who was it that skipped media last game? Was it
From the
last game?
Nuggets post game. So I believe Aaron Gordon skipped. I believed Michael Porter Jr. might have skipped as well. Look, it's the finals. I mean, things happen. I mean, for the beat reporters who have to like write their game stories and whatever, I get it. Like you want to talk to a particular guy,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something the league needs to just pay attention to because this matters, right? Like the players need to
Mm-hmm.
be available when they're available, and if it's some extenuating circumstances, fine. But if it's just like they're annoyed about a loss, well, it's just part of the game, my friend.
Right, especially during the NBA finals. I mean, but that's the least of our worries. However, I did hear something today that Jokic was talking about the zone when the Heat are in the zone, and it's just he can't read it because Bam and Jimmy are so good at just switching and just reading the game itself. I mean, do you think that's going to be trouble for him? Is Bam giving him more run for his money than we thought?
Well, what Bam is doing is, first of all, he's playing outstanding. His effort level is extremely high. He was very efficient shooting the ball in game 2, not as efficient in game 1, but defensively, he's been very good. Look, you're not going to stop Nikola Jokic, all right? Jokic has been excellent through the first 2 games. What you're trying to do with any great offensive player is just throw their rhythm off, right? Because what happens is when they get a steady diet of something, they just get comfortable, and you want to make them uncomfortable. That's the goal. You're not going to
Mm-hmm.
stop Nikola Jokic. You're not going to stop Steph Curry. Like these great players, you're not going to stop them from doing anything. All you want to do is make them pause for half a second. Wait, what are they doing? Right, Morale, I always say that half a beat, that half a tick to close down some airspace, to shut off an option for them, just so they're not able to read what's going on constantly. And Miami's zone is very good in that it takes away threes and it forces the Nuggets players, right, to knock down the shots that they get, which aren't many, right? Jokic is going to score, and then we're going to force, Michael Porter Jr., these guys, you're getting 8-9 shots, and you better be efficient, because if you don't make them, we're going the other way, we're running, etc. But again, all that being said, the Nuggets offense is still incredible, Jenna, and it comes down to their ability to play defense. If they guard, they'll be fine, because they can score enough points. They just have to be locked in defensively. In the last 2 fourth quarters, they've given up, I don't know, 60 something odd points. I mean, they've been terrible in the fourth quarter.
Speaking of the Heat, just playing really well and being very cohesive and together, and again, Heat culture hashtag. Another thing I did see today too that I had to mention to you because I thought it was very interesting, and so Heat culture, I guess. I think it was Brian Windhorst that reported, because he's been covering Miami, of course, following LeBron since forever. So he said, I don't know if you've ever heard this. You probably have, because you're a basketball encyclopedia. He said that the Heat culture, that Pat Riley's Heat culture is so, I don't like the word strict because it sounds mean, but like so by the book, that both him and Eric Spoelstra weighed the same that they have, that Spoelstra weighed when he was in Portland, and that Riley weighed when he was like, I don't know, a certain.
Right.
I thought that was the craziest thing I've ever
Look,
heard.
it's not surprising.
And they weighed the players.
Of course. The Heat have a famous conditioning and body fat test. If you cannot pass those tests, you cannot play for the Miami Heat. They pride themselves on being the most conditioned and physically tough team in the NBA. That is their calling card. That is their identity. That is who they are. That is hashtag Heat culture. It is also, as we talked about, Jenna, a culture of accountability. Everyone holds everyone else accountable. So a player like Jimmy Butler thrives in that culture, because we've talked about him before. Jimmy loves confrontation, and he loves to win, and he's like in the grind, in the dirt, in the mud kind of guy, right? He doesn't view himself as an NBA superstar. He views himself as someone who was a 30th pick and had to grind for everything he's got. And so when your best player is working that hard, as Bam Adebayo is too, well, how can the 12th or 15th man not work that hard? They have to, right? The culture is set from the top by the leadership, and it filters down. The culture is also, when we wrote this at True Hoop, shout out to David Thorpe, the culture is also a fuck you culture, and not fuck you in the you walk on the street and like you're in a fight with somebody or whatever, and somebody, no, fuck you as in, we don't care what anybody else is saying outside or what's going on, or what we know, what we believe inside our facility and what we're doing. We believe in that, and we're going to stick to that and what's going on in here. Whatever else is going on out there, whatever y'all thinking, fuck you, fuck y'all, it don't matter. We're good. We know what we're doing in here. And you see that because it's embodied in players like Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin and Max Strus and Duncan Robinson, and right, all these different kinds of players. And it's wonderful. And of course, Eric Spoelstra is huge for that, because not only is he, one of the leaders of that culture, he's also a terrific X's and O's tactician, coach. And he's found some things. So it's a wonderful thing what they have going on down in Miami.
You gotta love it. I feel like it's the cool sorority that I wouldn't probably last through the pledging. That's how I see the Miami Heat. But they're so cool that you just really want to try and do it. We'll see.
Plus, they're in Miami.
Make it. Exactly. Like in the 305. See, like, not everybody's cut out for that life, but I'll take the smoke. All right. So staying on the Heat, but also talking about the Nuggets here. Have they figured out Nikola Jokic, or is it just still a different level that they're still unlocking approaching game 30?
Yeah, it's like I said, you're never going to stop a player like Jokic, but they had him pausing and thinking in that game. With all that being said, Jenna, it was still a 1-possession game with 12 seconds to go. So it's this idea of, even when the Heat are playing their best, like, Denver is still really good and can find a way to win. Now, what Denver needs to do is they need to figure out what part of the problem with the zone is. How Miami plays their zone is they put on a little bit of full court pressure, and then they settle back into their zone. And that comes off of when they make shots, right? So right after a make, you're pulling the ball out of the basket. So you have to go out of bounds, check the ball in. That allows them to push up and pressure and then settle back into their zone, which is their preferred way of doing things. So this all goes back to Denver's what? Defense. If you play defense and you rebound the ball and you get out and run in transition, Miami don't have any time to do any kind of zone because it's like, crap, I got to find the man and match up, right? So the Nuggets need to make sure the pace is staying high and getting higher up on the pace. For as far as Jokic goes, I mean, I think he, as his comments you mentioned about what Windhorn said about, difficulty reading the zone because Jimmy and Bam are so good. But Jokic is super smart, a super fast processor. He's watching film. He's seeing what they're doing. If we're getting nerdy here, they was spamming a lot of empty sides on the pick and roll, right? And that's good, but they'll see that again. Look, there's only so many things teams can do that you haven't seen before, right? The Nuggets have more film to digest, more to watch. They can go back and say, oh, okay, I know what's supposed to happen here. When this happens, we're making this move. Make sure our spacing's right here, X, Y, and Z. I expect when the Heat won game 2, people were like, oh my God, it was some great executing strategy. It wasn't so much as that, as they just played harder and better in game 2. And guess what? Denver's got to play harder and better in game 3, right? If they execute their plan the way they can and play harder and better in game 3, they'll probably see a much different result than they saw in game 2.
Right. And I mean, it's a tough sell right there. You don't want Michael Malone,
so annoying
bashing you post game presser. That was tough. That was really tough.
I mean, look, I'm not. Look, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Michael Porter Jr. did not play well in game 2. I'm not sure I would have called my team out in the NBA Finals like that in public twice during the in-game interview and in the post-game. I might have opted for something different. But look, he knows his team. Perhaps that lit a fire under them. Perhaps they're, I talked to, I heard from a Nuggets player, and, his point about game 2 was we just didn't come out with the right energy. We were just too loose all day before the game. And I'm like, it's the NBA Finals. What you mean too loose?
Right.
Like, there's no
that
more
casual vibe.
There's no more basketball after this. Like, that's it. Like,
this is
it. You lose now, you ain't winning no championship. Like, and this idea, again, I say this all the time, Jenna, and you know it. There's no guarantee you coming back to this stage in the rest of your career. You don't know. This may be the last time you ever played an NBA Finals. Listen, man, you better seize and recognize this moment.
That's it, because look how fast it can switch. I mean, Jimmy Butler, didn't even play 20 games in the regular season, and the Miami Heat were arguably, not good. Arguably, not me. But, and then they come in the postseason and, they show up when it matters. But let's talk about adjustments on both sides. What adjustments need to be made that could be crucial to a win in game 3?
I think, again, defensively, the Nuggets need to stick to their game plan. In the fourth quarter of game 2, Jenna, the Miami Heat ran their wide pin down, I want to say 2 times in a row. And the read on the pin down for Duncan Robinson is that if he curls, like he's heading towards the basket, you switch. If he lifts, right, when he hangs back on the 3-point line, you don't switch because the trailing man's got him. Well, Bruce Brown and Christian Brown, 2 plays in a row, inexplicably, I'm like, guys, what are you doing here? And again, in the playoffs and in the finals especially, where possessions are so critical, right? You play those 2 possessions better, Miami doesn't get shots. What did I say the game was 12 seconds left? It was a 1-possession game. Maybe the game is tied at that point. Or maybe you're up. It's possessions are so critical. And you can, especially, look, you're not going to stop. You're not going to pitch shutouts in the NBA, right? That's not how basketball works. But you cannot have gaffes and errors that lead. It's your fault. The easy shots are because you are not following and you're not disciplined, right? It's on you to be disciplined and locked in. And look, it's tough at the time of the year. Guys are exhausted, played a ton of minutes. But this is for the championship, man. As I said, you may never, ever play on this stage ever again in your NBA career. Nothing's promised. There's this idea look, LeBron James and Steph Curry and all these people got you fooled thinking you're going to make the finals every year. No, They make the finals a lot. You ain't making the finals a lot. So when you have your chance, you better seize the moment.
Exactly. And speaking of Steph, the Warriors are a prime example of making the finals one year and then not completely being, just bounced out early in the second season after. So, all right. Adjustments on the Heat side?
On the Heat side, honestly, they just need to keep doing what they're doing. I think they have an identity. They know what they want to do defensively. They're going to keep throwing that zone out, but not all the time. They're going to throw wrinkles in every now and then. They're going to force
Mm-hmm.
other people to beat them. Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr., by the way, has not shot the ball well through 2 games, but, three-pointers have a high variance. He can get on a scorcher and be lights out from 3.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to force those guys to make plays to beat them. Jamal Murray's got to be a little bit more activated, I think. And so the Heat watch that. I think they're going to keep Jimmy Butler on him.
Mm-hmm.
But the Miami Heat just need to continue to do what they do, play their style. They're going to shoot a ton of threes, and if they make a lot, if they're going to be tough to beat. But look, the 3-point variance is a strange thing, man. Miami shot better this postseason than they have all regular season. I don't expect them to have a whole series of shooting 50% from 3 or high 40s. They have another off night from 3 like they did in game 1. You got to seize that opportunity if you're Denver.
Mm-hmm. Imagine your guy, MPJ, with a ring.
Listen,
who would have thought we would be here potentially?
Well, he's got a lot of talent. He just, there were a couple defensive plays that he missed there. He needs to be a little better on that, and then he's got to start knocking down some shots, and I believe he will.
And also, too, props to Jamal Murray. I mean, to tear your ACL that way and then make this type of run. He's averaging like what, 25, 27 points?
28 points a game. He's been great. Jamal Murray's been excellent.
God.
He has proven that he is one of the NBA's best shot makers when he's got it going. And look, they're going to need him to play at that level. Like, he's got to do that. The other part of your Denver and your Michael Malone, look, it's clear that he's decided that he's going with those 8 guys. Why did you trade for Reggie Jackson and Thomas Bryant if you're not going to play them?
Right.
Like, I mean, he didn't trade for them like Calvin Booth did, but it's like, bro, like, I just, listen, you have some options you can get to on the bench that I think, because the big key to Jenna is that there's a stat that floated out there. Miami Heat's like plus minus throughout the playoffs. First 3 quarters has been generally minus, but in the fourth quarter, it's like plus 90 or something like that. And it's like Spoelstra finds ways to get Jimmy and Bam rest, so they're able to play and make those big plays late in the fourth quarter. At this stage of the season with the NBA Finals, it comes down to 1-2 possession games. Who has enough energy and who's fresh enough to make the right plays? Mentally fatigued players, Jenna, make physical errors, right? And that's how it works. Oh, crap, I was supposed to switch there. I didn't. Like, all these little things. And so, look, Malone's been leaning heavy on his guys in terms of their minutes. And I know usually it's like, oh my God, when Jokic goes to the bench, it's disaster. But they played well with him off the floor.
Yeah.
Malone has got to trust that his guys can run their stuff and do what they have to do. Make sure he's getting rest in the right moments for his 2 big guys, so that come the fourth quarter, they're ready to roll.
Yeah, and it's a matter of 2, like, it's pretty unacceptable in the NBA Finals to have Jokic dropping 40 and then you still lose a game. So
got to be better. The Nuggets needed to play better. I mean, remember that game, game 2, the Heat jumped out to a double-digit lead. Now the Nuggets fought back and they went up double digits, but then you gave it up again.
Yeah,
Look, teams go on runs. We know that, but that was not a championship type effort. The Nuggets played that game like it was just some regular, Wednesday game against the Heat. No, my guy, game 2 of the NBA Finals. Hopefully tonight in game 3, the alarm bells will go off in their head and they're like, oh, no, this is serious. We go down 2-1. We are 2 losses away from that's it. No NBA championship.
Especially against the Heat. You don't want that.
Especially a team like the Heat who will do well as front runners and who you have to beat them. They're generally not going to beat themselves or quit or any of those kinds. First of all, no players quit, but you know what I mean? They're not going to do any of that kind of stuff. So if you think you are the better team, and I believe the Nuggets are, you have to match their intensity and effort. And the Nuggets did not do that in game 2.
100%. Let's switch gears and talk about the Heat, because I don't know, maybe Jimmy Butler's ankle is still bothering him. He's been a little slow to start the finals. So, role players. I hate that word, yet it's
what it is.
Needed. Who needs to knock down shots tonight? Really?
I mean, the Heat players the Heat role players need to do what they've been doing all postseason, which is star in their role. Look, sometimes you're going to make shots, sometimes you're going to miss shots. The problem is, if you are not making shots, you have to find other ways to impact the game and help your team win. That is the name of the game. And That is what great players do. My shot's not falling. Okay, I'm gonna guard the hell out of my man. I'm gonna rebound like an MFer. I'm gonna dive on the floor for loose balls. Whatever it is, so we get extra possessions. We love the saying, make or miss league. Okay, well, when you're missing and you're not scoring, okay, how can I impact the game and help my team win? If you can't, then you're a liability on the floor. Then what are you doing? You're not making shots and you're not defending, you're not rebounding it. Well, then you're nothing. We're playing 4-on-5, right? So I think you don't have to worry about that with the Miami Heat, right? Players miss shots, whatever, they're going to give the right effort and do what they have to do. I think if you're Denver, the same has to apply to you. Michael Porter Jr., KCP had bad games in game 2. Michael Porter Jr. is 6'10", rebound like a mofo, like you've been doing all playoffs. Use that length to get block shots and rim protect. KCP, play aggressive defense without fouling. Again, there are ways you can impact the game if your shot is not falling. And then eventually your shots will fall, right? Shoot the ball with confidence. They will go down. Everyone knows you don't miss every shot, right? Shots will start falling again, but you got to stay engaged in the game. And I think that's a big thing for the Miami. Again, the Miami Heat don't have to worry about that. Their guys are going to stay engaged no matter what. That's how they're coached. So I expect them to, whether Gabe's making shots or not, he's going to be a pesky defender. Same with Kyle Lowry. Caleb Martin, depending if they start Kevin Love or not. But when he comes off the bench, he'll be ready to do whatever he has to do in his minutes. The Heat players know how to impact the game of basketball and win. And ultimately, that's what it's about. Doesn't matter how it looks. Once we get that W.
Right. And I'd love to know also what Kevin Love is telling these guys in the locker room, because if you think about it, obviously, he's probably the only one that has experience.
Oh, I mean, he's got experience
at this level.
Jimmy Butler has played in the finals before. He's got experience.
Yeah.
Kyle Lowry. But Jenna, honestly, experience matters until it doesn't, right? I tell this story all the time, but there was the year the Rockets were the best team in the NBA regular season wise, and they pushed the Warriors to 7 games in the conference finals and should have won if Chris Paul didn't hurt his hamstring. And I remember talking to Shaq right before the playoffs in April. And I was like, he was listing contenders who we thought was contenders. And I was like, you didn't mention Houston. He goes, they don't have championship DNA. And I was like, but Shaq, nobody has championship DNA until they win a championship. He was like, good point. Right? Like that is, and of course he didn't. Shaq always, good point.
Right? No, for real.
So it's experience and all that. Yes, that matters, but they're just mistakes, right? Like, rookies make mistakes, young players make mistakes, veterans, everyone makes mistakes. The hope is that the more time you've played, the smarter you've gotten around the game, the more knowledge you have, the less mistakes you make. But just because you have finals experience doesn't mean you're not going to make mistakes. Hello, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He's cast finals experience. He won a championship with the Lakers in the bubble. He was horrendous and made all sorts of mistakes in game 2. So it doesn't matter who has experience per se. It's who understands what the job is in the moment, who is on their game both mentally and physically. And Jenna, again, at this time of the year, it is hard. These guys have been playing ball since training camp and since the regular season started in October. They are exhausted. Okay. They are mentally and physically beat down. So it's who can summon up enough to help their team get over the finish line.
It's going to be a scrappy one, for sure. That is a prediction. But on the real predictions, let's hear it. What do we got? Game 3 and series.
So game 3, I do think Denver comes out better. I think they win tonight and they go up 2-1. I think the series is going long, 6 or 7. I do think, Jenna, look, the Nuggets are the better team, top to bottom. But the Heat have Heat culture. They have Spo. They have Jimmy Butler. They have Bam Adebayo. They have Kyle. They have just a bunch of guys that know how to make winning plays. And so I could see this stretching to 7. And we know the Heat can win game 7 on the road. We've seen them do that this playoffs, right?
It's almost like they like it. It's like, can you all stop torturing us?
After having a 3-0 lead against the Boston Celtics, the Celtics ripped off 3 straight. And the quote unquote momentum was all on their side. But Miami went into Boston on the road in game 7 and put the beat down on the Celtics.
And it's hard to play at TD Garden.
It's hard to play anywhere on the road in game 7, right? It's just difficult. So he ain't going to be fazed by no moments. Look, you have to beat them. if you want to win. You have to, right? Because they're not going to beat
Mhm.
themselves. So I say 6 or 7, but I'm going to say still Denver finds a way because Nikola Jokic is phenomenal and he will find a way to get his team over the hump.
Okay, I am going with the Heat in Game 3. I think they're back in Miami. They're gonna ride off that last win, and then I'm gonna say the Heat in 7 because
Wow, you
I
like it. You're liking Jimmy Butler and
you
crew.
just love to see it. Also, what's the status with our guy Tyler Hero? What's the vibe?
I've not heard about game 3 yet. I'm sure he's going to test it. I've not got any pings or alerts, so I don't know if he's going to play game 3. Doesn't seem like it yet. Maybe he's on the floor warming up right now, checking it out.
Mhm.
But so far, nothing.
Speaking
We
of
will.
pings and alerts, oh,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, you got something? What happened?
W- uh, Chris Paul
Oh, Chris
waived.
Paul. Yes, but yes, true. It did wave, but I just got another alert from Shams, which is that they're exploring multiple options, which include a trade, stretching his contract, waiving, and re-signing him in free agents. But basically, what the Suns are trying to do,
Okay.
as we all know, the CBA was agreed to, and as part of the CBA, there's a new apron, a second apron for luxury tax. And what I think new owner Matt Ishbia and GM James Jones is trying to do is trying to get the team under that second apron so they don't have to get nailed with that second set of luxury tax. That's all. They're trying to save some money.
Yeah.
So look, they very well way trade wave that may all be possible, but this is all a financial situation to save themselves some cash.
Well, I mean, that's what happens when you pick up KD.
You know,
Ain't no cheap purchase.
it's part of the deal.
And that's it. But it is the NBA Finals. So game 3 will be behind us when we see you guys next. So
Yeah,
stick
I
with us.
mean,
We are winding down here.
yeah, by the time we come back next week, it'll be, I mean, it could be closeout time for one of these teams. So stay tuned. Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, SoundCloud, all that at Seven Footers Pod on Twitter, at Seven Footers Podcast. No, at Seven Footers Pod on Instagram, at Seven Footers Podcast on Twitter, at JS Hector, at Jenna Lemoncelli. And until next time, everybody, peace.
Spent a couple years out here with these raps, trying to have a plan that we made come true. Applied to some jobs, but I ain't hit back. I don't want